The story opens when the protagonist talks about what his father always says, which was, "Live for the clan." He remembered this while they were in the middle of a battlefield. It meant that he should not desire for anything and that he should just stay by his brother's side like a shadow. He was sitting on his knees while blood dripped down his face. Several knights watched him while one person commented how he, a single knight, fights off the continent's strongest commanders on his own. The battlefield was surrounded by fallen knights, but a commander and several knights who can still fight surround him. The commander of the enemy called him by his name, Vert. In response, he uttered the commander's name, Boris. Boris had a smug look on his face. Out of thin air, Sion drew out his sword. He then asked Boris who made him do this to him, and an ominous aura surrounds his body. He asked Boris if it was the Emperor. Boris covered his face with his arm. He commented that Sion's black fog is sickening. Upon witnessing this power, he had confirmed that it was like what the rumors had said. Sion's aura grew powerful while Boris called him an assassin from Mist. Mist is an organization that is like fog to the Knights of Light. Boris planned to report to the higher-ups that he got rid of an impure being that was affiliated with the heathens. Sion replied that he should do that when he actually had the mouth left to function after their battle. He threatened Boris that he won't even have a single tooth after he's done with him. Boris advised Sion that if he plans to use his secret power, he should give up. He told Sion that there is a 9th-star magic barrier casted around the area. In his mind, Sion knew that he needed to get out of there and reveal the culprit behind it to his brother. With fierce eyes, Sion declared that he'll just pierce through the barrier. All of a sudden, Sion was commanded to stop by someone. A reputable man in golden armor arrived. Sion was surprised and confused to see this familiar person. He recalled what his father always used to say, "Live for the clan." In addition, his father told him that his brother Ashel is by extension of the clan. Ashel Vert's success is Sion Vert's success. This man in golden armor has blonde hair and is staring at Sion. Sion realized the culprit behind all of it. It was Ashkel. This revelation made his legs weak. Ashel commented that Sion is confused now that he has appeared. Sion looked at him. He asked Ashel about the meaning of all of it. Ashel expressed how Sion carried out his duties well, for the clan, for the people, and for him. And upon hearing this statement, our MC knew what was going to happen next. Ashel added that he was just trying to take the burden off his brother's shoulder. Sion admitted that he doesn't understand it. He inquired if he had done anything wrong. Wrong? Ashel asked. Ashel pointed out the ominous fog that Sion is emitting. He described Sion as nothing more than a murderer. He's even unsure if his brother can still be called human. Ashel raised his voice when he told Sion that he fooled them all for a long time. With a hint of anger, he asked Sion, "Can you really say that you don't know your sins?" The word murderer and sin echoes in Sion's head. This made him furious as he wondered what the hell Ashel was talking about. The succession fight within the Empire, the Demon King army's raid, the war to unify the continent. Sion helped Ashel through all of that. All because for Sion, serving his brother is his life. He punched the ground in anger. Our MC slowly stood up. He thought about how Ashel is now abandoning him. Dark aura was now oozing from his body. Driven by his rage, his fog became more intense as he thought about how he worked like a dog under Ashel for 20 years. Blood started pooling at his feet, but he didn't care if his whole body broke down. He decided to give everything he has right now, even if it means he can destroy Ashel. His crimson-red mist covered the whole area, painting the sky red. The knights were shocked to see that he still had that much mana left. It was impossible for a human. Sion narrated that the hero is trying to kill his younger brother just because he's afraid. He asked Ashel if he's not ashamed of himself. This made Ashel furious. The veins on his face became visible because of that. Xian launched at him. With incredible speed, he continuously attacked Ashel, who tried to deflect using a sword. Xian wished for one chance. Just once was enough. Their fight continues. One chance is all he needs to stab Ashel's weak point to stop him from regenerating. Xian's attack met a magic barrier. Our MC did not expect for his strongest attack to be blocked by something like this. He checked and saw that Boris helped Ashel. Ashel called him a poor bastard. And he stabbed Xian in the stomach. That made Xian drop his dagger. Ashel told him that he wanted to do the favor of giving him a painless death since he's his brother, but Xian showed him his true colors. He revealed that he knew Xian was a demon from the start. He added how it's a good thing he never trusted Xian to begin with. Xian's expression revealed how heartbroken he was because of that statement. Ashel kicked him so that he could remove the sword from Xian's body, and just like that, he left Xian lying on the ground. Xian's blood pooled underneath him. This scene looked like Sung Jin Woo from Solo Leveling. He wondered if that was his end. He commented on how foolish the life he had lived. As he slowly starts to lose his consciousness, he calls himself stupid. Yet all of a sudden, he chased after Ashel's back. Ashel sensed him and turned. Xian was about to hit him. Xian let out a loud scream as he released all his remaining power for that attack. His dagger was inches away from Ashel's throat, but he was interrupted with a powerful force that blew him away. He lost consciousness. Then he heard somebody calling him young Master Xian. He immediately woke up. He was sweating profusely and was catching his breath. The maid scolded him for sleeping in. She told him to get his act together since he needs to get ready. He was surprised to see Emily. He asked her what she was doing there. Emily was also surprised. And then he realized something. It has been 20 years since he last saw her, and yet she's the same as she was when he last saw her. He noticed the surroundings. He remembered that it was the room he used to live in when he was younger. Even the furniture arrangement was the same. And he thought that maybe he went back to being a child. Emily called him to get his attention. She asked him if he was stalling for time because he doesn't want to go for training. She instructed him to make up his mind and get going. The young Xian had no idea what Emily talked about. He asked what training she pertained to. In the Vert clan duchy. Xian looked around and he was certain that he was back in the duchy of the past. He wondered if the situation is what they call the life flashing before your eyes just before your death. He remembered 27 years ago. It was during the Foundation year 985, March 1st. It was a year before he entered the academy. Every year the duchy holds a dual training session. His father, who is the owner of the duchy, Duke Vert, attends the event, making it a very big deal. His opponent is Kranz Vert. He is the same age as Xian. He is his half-brother. Kranz's mother, Margaret Ezret, is the Duke's wife. Thanks to that, Kranz received a lot more attention despite the fact that they were both the youngest. Xian was considered a bastard son, and after being mocked in that fight, he became a laughingstock to everyone. The duel was the reason why his father stopped paying attention to him, too. Emily whispered and suggested that he should surrender. Young Xian assured him that it's okay, and he just needed to win. In his head, Xian took that as the maid looking down at him. Xian sensed something. His weapon, a rapier, was heavy. He figured out his strength is the same when he was at that age. The sensation felt like it was not from a dream, nor a memory of his life flashing before his eyes. He had never heard of a magic spell that is capable of creating such strong illusions either. He wondered if he's really back in the past. Kranz commented how his brother didn't run off from the duel. Xian thought that this could be his chance to change the future. He looked at his father, who declared the start of the match. Kranz attacked first while asking him where he's looking. Kranz was confident that he would hit him with his sword. Xian stood there and watched him. He thought how Kranz is like a snail. He shifted his stance, and that made Kranz surprised. Basically, Xian just took a step to move on the side and Kranz missed to hit him. This triggered Kranz. He commented how Cyan is dodging like a coward. But before Kranz could further do anything, Cyan hit his hand, and Kranz's sword flew. Then Cyan kicked him on the shin. Kranz was in pain. He fell to the ground and hugged his knees while groaning loudly. His mother yelled out his name in worry. Cyan thought that now, if he just puts his sword on Kranz's throat, the duel will be over. He gripped his sword as he thought that wasn't enough. He recalled that when he was at that age, Kranz always bullies him as a form of entertainment. And that bullying continued in the academy too. So Cyan thought that he needed to really stomp him down so that he can never try to do anything like that to him again. Cyan had decided that in that life, he will pave a path on his own for himself. Kranz got terrified. Tears were streaming down his face. Kranz was in pain. The result of the duel was that Kranz lost. The Duke ordered Cyan to see him, and even freed up a schedule. That made Cyan ponder if his victory in the duel was really that impressive. He even had a high-class knight, Elkin, who was directly affiliated with the Duke, escorting him. He met Margaret Ezret in the hallway. It looked like she talked to the Duke about her son. Cyan grinned when he saw that she looked like she stepped in shit. He asked her if Kranz is okay. She was furious. She told him that he was audacious to ask such a question after beating his brother like that. She told him that he was thick-skinned. She passed by her while saying that it's how duels are. Then he heard her say, "This is why bastards shouldn't be treated like legitimate children." With a devilish grin, Margaret Ezret continued to say that, like mother, like son, and that his mother is a dirty whore. She told him that he should be on the streets begging for food instead. He was daring to put up a fight when he should have just known how to be grateful. Cyan looked back at her with a murderous intent. She had crossed the line. He pondered if he should just kill her, but he stopped himself. A grin flashed on his face. He knew better than anyone on how to make her suffer. He planned to torture her. Slowly, like painstakingly slowly. He asked her if she's aware that he's going to the academy along with Kranz. She asked him what his point was. Then he said, "I'm sure you want your son to graduate with limbs, right? I guess you're not that worried about him, huh, Duchess?" This triggered her even more. She was about to slap him while calling him a vulgar piece of shit. Yolkin's arm protected Cyan. Yolkin apologized to the Duchess. He explained that the Duke called Cyan urgently, so they had to go. With a stern expression, he told the Duchess that they will get going. The Duchess remained silent. The Duke's orders are absolute. Cyan peeked from Yolkin's back and laughed. He was being protected by the guard knight who was given that order, a knight who won't submit, even to the Duke's wife. He thought of how Yolkin is nice and reliable. The door opened and the Duke told them to come in. Cyan entered the room. He greeted the Duke. In his mind, he recalled that it has been almost 15 years since they had met one-on-one. Duke Willius Vert is the great feudal lord of Velius, a western feud of the Ushif Empire. The world calls him by a different name, the guardian of the continent. He is the hero who stopped the invasion of demons for a long time. With the help of his remarkable magic power and otherworldly wisdom. That man shouldered a responsibility no one compelled on him until his very death in battle against the invasion of the Demon King's army. All he wanted was there to be peace in the entirety of the continent. But Cyan's memories of him are different. As a man who utilized his free will to decide on living his whole life serving others. For Cyan, he is a stupid man. The Duke commented how Cyan's eyes precisely followed the sword and dodged it. Cyan was confused. The Duke explained the scene when the moment Kranz ran at him, he looked straight at the path of the swinging sword and turned his body to dodge it. The Duke asked him when he learned how to wield a sword. Cyan thought that, as always, the Duke was sharp. He answered that he wouldn't say he learnt it. He revealed that he practiced every night on his own. The Duke pressed him for details, since the Duke knew that Cyan never had any interest in swordsmanship. He asked Cyan why he hid such excellent skills. Cyan was embarrassed when he answered that he didn't want to catch others' attention, but the Duke was not convinced since, despite that reason, Cyan went all out at taking down Crans. The Duke continued to speak. He asked Cyan if he also thinks that what he did after was unnecessary. The Duke was talking about Cyan kicking Crans on the ground. Cyan thought that the intention of the Duke behind the question seems pretty perusing. He wondered if the Duke is trying to get a feel of what he's capable of. Cyan admitted that he wanted to prove himself. The Duke asked him what he wanted to prove. Cyan confidently replied that he wanted to prove that he's better than Crans, even though they share the same blood. He concluded that it was the meaning of the duel. The Duke laughed. The Duke praised him for his clear and concise answer that shows off his level-headedness. He didn't know Cyan was so talented. He was delighted. The Duke told him that he will become a great and reliable support for Ashel one day. Cyan then felt the betrayal from his past life. He was confused and disappointed. He wondered why he would become Ashel's helper. He thought how it was always the same. The Duke is still obsessed as ever with Ashel. His hand turned into a ball of fists. The Duke told him that he wanted to reward him, so if there's anything he wants, he should just tell him. With sharp eyes, Cyan decided that he'll destroy everything. Everything that Ashel fucking tried to do. He told the Duke what he wanted. A few moments after that, Emily turned pale when she found out that Cyan wanted to enter the battlefront. He told Emily that nothing is certain yet. Emily probed him if he's losing his mind, or if he has any idea what kind of place that is. She told him that it's swarming with wicked and terrifying demonic beasts all over the place. Velius, the western feud of the Ushif Empire. It is the only place in the entire continent to be called a battlefront. Even in that, the Lima Valley, that can be called the front line, is a ferocious battlefield, where the battles with demons have been going on for hundreds of years. Because of that, the Duke, who stubbornly opposed it from the start, gave Cyan a condition. He is to become worthy of going to Lima Valley within 1 month. He didn't know on what basis the Duke would decide his worth yet. He thought of raising his physical strength as much as possible in the given time. He's aware that he's still weaker than his peers, but he also appreciates that he's lucky enough to have the same combat sense as he had before regressing, and the little amount of magic he sensed from within him. He knew that if he trained his body as per his capability, he could definitely make good use of it. He decided to start training right away. All of a sudden, his door busted open. A woman entered the room. It was Alice. This lady had this blue hair and stern look on her face. She grabbed him by the collar. Emily greeted Lady Alice. But Alice was rocking Cyan back and forth and asking him if he's gone mad. She heard that he asked their father to send him to the battlefront. Cyan turned pale when he asked Alice to let him go. She left him on the ground. Cyan's soul looked like it left his body. Alice commented that defeating Crans got into Cyan's head. She uttered that it won't. So she demanded that Cyan go to the rooftop at once. At the rooftop, Alice briefed him. She told him that when they drew their swords, she would let him go to the battlefront if he could endure her attacks for 3 minutes. Our MC asked Alice if she really had to go that far. Alice was firm. She demanded him to answer one question. She inquired if Cyan is after the family's title. Internally, Cyan was surprised that she's going that far for that reason. He doesn't even have the slightest interest in that. Alice assumed that his silence means yes. She instructed him to draw his sword. Cyan was exasperated. It hasn't been half a day since his duel with Crans. He concluded that his whole day was chaotic. Alice proceeds to attack him. He did not expect that, but he was able to block her attack, which surprised Alice because that would have been impossible for a 10-year-old. Cyan pondered if she really planned to go all out against her brother, who is 7 years younger than her. Alice stepped back. She was processing what happened. A rapier has a very light blade, yet Cyan cleanly parried off her longsword's attack. She wondered if he just got lucky. She told him that he's got better intuition than she thought. He knew from Alice's expression that he's screwed. Alice went all out on her next attacks. She leapt to attack him, but Cyan was able to block her sword using his rapier. More than that, he was able to slide his sword well so that he was able to position it parallel to her throat. Alice was taken aback. Cyan was struggling. He shifted his sword, but Alice blasted him away. He landed on top of the pillar. Breathing heavily, he thought how the situation could go wrong. Had he not twisted his sword midway through, he would have killed her. Mist's swordsmanship skill, thick fog, mostly consists of skills meant to kill immediately. Cyan admitted to himself that it's hard to fight without killing, because his strength is lacking. He wondered how much time was left. He's compensating for his weak strength by imbuing the sword with his mana, but he's almost at his limit. Alice was breathing heavily, too. She called the earth and wine to come to her and act as her sword. Cyan was surprised to witness the 6th star magic. Alice's blade glowed in blue. This is called the Aqua Blade. With a funny-looking crying expression, Cyan wondered if Alice was trying to kill him. Alice kept muttering that she can't lose. Cyan could tell by the look in her eyes that it would be the end of him. Since he's positioned on the edge, he anticipated that he'll fall even if he were to block her attack. He decided to trust that his plan will work. With an incredible speed, he charged at her first. He ran fast while Alice pointed her sword toward the sky to concentrate her power. Cyan gripped his sword as he begged. He's hoping somebody will come out. Alice is oozing with power. In his mind, Cyan hoped for Yulkin to show up. When Alice and Cyan were about to hit each other, Yulkin showed up in the middle while screaming, "Stop!" He blocked Alice's sword with his sword while he grabbed Cyan at the back of his neck. Alice's attack caused a huge explosion. Yulkin had a serious expression on his face when he called Lady Alice. He told her that she's being harsh against a much younger opponent. Cyan, still dangling from Yulkin's hand, let out a sigh of relief. He kept wondering when Elkin would appear. As if she came out of a trance, she gasped, and immediately she hugged her brother while apologizing. She admitted that she must have lost her mind for a second. Then she cried. Snot came out of her nose. She expressed how much she wanted to stop him from going to the battlefield. Cyan smiled and thought how it's very much Alice to do that. She always tries so hard with everything. Alice was the elite of the elites who got an S in all subjects. In the Royal Academy, where all the talented children gathered, whether they be talented in swordsmanship, magic, or other fields of study. On top of that, her beauty was astounding, so people called her God's child. From a young age, she was trained in swordsmanship. She was mentioned as being the future guardian of the continent, along with the oldest son, Ashelvert. But not long after joining the Knights of Light, she was killed. Cyan hugged her back while thinking of how much he missed her. His hug was so tight that it got Alice's attention. In his head, he vowed to protect her this time. Then she averted her attention to Oaken. She asked if he was the Duke's guardian knight. She was confused since the Duke just left for the war. Oaken informs her that he's carrying out the Duke's orders to protect the young master for a while, although he couldn't tell her because he's supposed to carry it out in secret. Cyan felt his presence ever since he left the Duke's office. He wondered if Yulkin would have not shown himself if he continued to not notice him. He wondered why his father would tell Yulkin to follow him secretly. All of a sudden, Cyan felt groggy. Alice caught him as he fell asleep. Alice smiled and commented that he's still a little kid. The next day, Alice returned to the academy. Apparently, she had come back just for a bit to see their father before her graduation. Cyan felt the need to become stronger, so he had been focusing on strength training for the past 2 weeks, but 10 push-ups is his limit. He felt like he hit the wall for the past 2 weeks. Back then, he was pretty confident in his strength. He knew this time he needed a solution. Emily knocked on his door to inform him that a package from Emily had arrived. Cyan got excited. Emily brought it out and complained how it smelled so disgusting. It's a hellhound's blood that he asked her to get for him. It's a rare item that can only be found in Lamia Valley. But now he figured out that the rumors that it was in the black market was true. The blood of demonic beasts is considered poisonous because of its sickening smell, as well as the feeling of burning upon consumption. But it actually permanently increases the mana and strength of the person who consumes it. Most people think that it was a false rumor, but Sion knew that it's true based on his past life experience. Emily asked him if he's really going to drink it. He answered yes. In his mind, Emily has nothing to worry about, since he's the only person who was able to adapt to her cooking skills. He chugged it down. He was reminded of the first time. He remembered it was mushroom soup, and after a single bite, his heart stopped for a moment. And compared to that soup, the blood is nothing. He finished everything, and commented that it was good. The power is oozing from his body. He told Emily that he's going out for a walk. He wanted to see if it worked. Our MC stepped outside. He arrived at a mountain overlooking the duchy. It had been a while since he last came there. He had been waiting for it for the last 2 weeks. It was the time when Ilkin was not there for his regular reports. He usually visits the place when he wants to be alone. Then one day Ashel received a divine revelation from the god of light, Lumendel. It said that an ancient temple is hidden somewhere in the mountains. He didn't really fully believe it, but there was really a place where the flow of mana was concentrated, and of course the divine revelation is yet to come. Only Sion knew about it at the moment. He touched the ground with his hand and his power traveled in the area. He grinned as he thought how Ashel had no idea what he's doing right now. The ground was shattered, and it revealed an underground passage. He decided to go inside. He noticed that it was different from last time he was there. That place was an ancient temple that served the god of light, Lumendel, until all of the history on that land was erased. It was because of the god of demon war that happened 300 years ago. Who could have ever imagined that the place existed in the mountains just behind the castle? Ahead of him is a glowing sword on a pedestal. It is considered the owner of the temple. 9939. Before Foundation, August 12th. Humanity finally succeeds in driving out the Demon King's army from Velius. The Demon King's army was far stronger than the humans, but the humans found ancient relics called the gods' weaponry, allowing them to take the win. One of those relics, Duran d'Arc, was a holy sword blessed by the god of light, Lumendel. The sword was deemed the main cause of humanity's victory against the demons, and Sion will meet his pitiful death in the future due to that sword, which will be possessed by Ashel Vert. He entertained the thought that perhaps Duran d'Arc had something to do with his regression. He touched the sword, and as he expected, nothing happened. He kicked the sword in frustration. He uttered that it ruined his mood. He mocked it, saying, "Holy sword, my ass." He decided to take care of his business and then leave. Little did he know, the sword was also annoyed. Once he walks past the light, there's a shadow that feels otherworldly. Sion found it. At first glance, it looked like a sword shadow, but it was not a shadow. Where there is light, there must be darkness too. He imbued it with his power. It revealed a pathway that leads to another room, hidden by the altar of light. Our MC opened the door. He saw his sword glowing in red on top of the pedestal. He told his sword that it was nice to see it. Sion grabbed his sword. It was the demonic sword, Karam. The same sword he was wielding before he died. The moment he touched it, it revealed a powerful ominous aura. He uttered, "Good morning, Karam." But there was no response, so he wondered if it's still not awake. Still, Sion was elated. The familiar feeling to him was the best that it made him want to slay something right there and then. And then a shadow with sharp eyes appeared on the ground. It asked Sion if he had no fear. Karam asked if he didn't know what it meant to have woken him up. Sion nonchalantly answered that he didn't know, and it could be that it meant the sword is his now. The shadow became bigger and intimidating. It informed Sion that since he woke up a demonic sword, It was too late to regret it now. The shadow grinned, and it revealed several pointy teeth. It rushed toward Cyan while claiming that Cyan's body will be owned by him. But Karam was surprised that Cyan casually choked him. Cyan told him that he wasn't that trashy before. The shadow started fading away, and it revealed a human face. Karam wondered how Cyan could touch him. As if in answer, Cyan reiterated that the sword is his. Karam had pink, long, pointy nails. It attacked Cyan with it while screaming, "Fuck off!" Cyan lost his grip, and Karam leapt backwards. When Karam was fully revealed, it turned out she was a woman. She asked Cyan who he was. She can see a dark aura surrounding him. She asked if he was the successor. She inquired why she could feel Eru's aura from him. Cyan answered that she's right and that he is the successor of Eru. He wore a devilish grin and told her that her master is back. He demanded her to bow down. He called her demonic sword Karam. Karam denies him by saying that he's just a kid. She couldn't accept it. They fought each other. Cyan figured out that words weren't enough. The demonic sword's final goal is to take over the body of the user. That left him no choice. He planned to go easy on her. But then Cyan grinned and activated demonic sword control. All of a sudden, Karam was being pulled to the ground, and the impact made her groan. Cyan told her that he will just say it once. He inquired as to why she won't accept him as her owner while he's still being nice. She grits her teeth as she asks him how he can use that power. He activated demonic sword control again, and that smashed her face to the ground. He did that over and over again. Her whole head is already buried deep in the ground. Cyan asked if she's ready to accept now. Karam replied that she accepted, yet she called him human. Cyan was about to activate demonic sword control again, but he stopped when Karam corrected herself and called him master. Now that he had taken care of his business in that place, Cyan wondered if it's time for him to go back since he had been gone for too long. Karam, in the sword form, expressed that it's been so long since she breathed fresh air. She let out herself from the sword. She looked like a black balloon with eyes, mouth, and pink hair. She was happy to express that she found it refreshing. She asked for her master's name. Cyan gave his full name. She commented that she had never heard that name before. Once again, she asked if Eru really chose a kid like him. Cyan answered, "Yeah, in my past life." That confused Karam. Cyan explained that he died once before. In her mind, Karam thought, "What the hell?" And then she noticed something. They were in front of the other sword. She commented how he's still sleeping. Cyan commented how the sword would have to wait for 20 years for his owner. Karam commented that Cyan talked as if he knew the future. He grabbed his sword and assumed stance. Out of the blue, he cut the handle of the sword in front of them. Karam was surprised. He asked him what he planned to do with it. He had a devilish grin on his face. He said that it could make things a bit more interesting in the future. The carriage can be seen moving away from the castle as the sun sets. It then slowed down, until it stops. Cyan is wearing a shield on his chest. He couldn't believe the day had already come. He thought about how time flies by. Cyan greeted the Duke upon his arrival. The Duke told him that it will be the last time that he will ask him. He inquired if Cyan is still determined to go to the battlefront. He told Cyan that if he wanted to back out now, he wouldn't stop him. With confidence, Cyan announced that he's certain since his heart already lies at the battlefront. The Duke instructed Ilkin to open what he had. Ilkin is holding a scroll. Cyan recognized that it was a magic scroll. He wondered if they're summoning something. Ilkin released the magic scroll, and a creature with flames on its body appeared before them. This creature's paws have sharp claws. It was a hellhound, a low-ranked demonic beast from the Lamea Valley. Cyan thought that his father and the knights must have had a hard time preparing for the test. The knights placed their hand on the sword. Cyan had observed that, and thought how the knights are prepared to step in when it becomes dangerous. The Duke told him that he's responsible for his actions. The Duke urged him to prove how strong his resolve is by passing the trial and showing it to them. Yoken thought about this trial. He tightened his grip on his sword. He recalled the time when Cyan invited him for a duel. That time, Cyan explained that there are only 3 days left until the deadline of his promise to his father. He thought that he couldn't just keep swinging his sword in the air. He told Yoken that he wanted to have a sense of a real fight too. So he asked him to help him out. Yoken was hesitant, so he suggested for Cyan to duel with someone at his age, like the young master Kranz. Cyan explained that for some reason Kranz runs away whenever he sees him. In his head, Yoken thought it was a hassle. Yoken eventually agreed. He informed Cyan that he will only fight with his sword's sheath, and that he will only focus on defense, so he encourages Cyan to attack him all he wants. Cyan thanked Yoken. He told him that he had another favor to ask. The atmosphere changed, and with a serious expression on his face, he told Yoken that whatever happens in the duel, Yoken should not tell the Duke about it. He emphasized that it was an order. That puzzled Oken. Sion attacked him. Oken was able to block it with his sword. But he felt that the attack was heavy. He can't believe that it came from a 10-year-old sword. Before he could get back to his stance, our MC attacked again. He also noticed how quick Cyan moves, and he was surprised when suddenly he was out of sight. He wondered when Cyan disappeared, and then he sensed him behind. He was able to defend right on time. Cyan attacked him consecutively. He really took this duel seriously. Our MC gave his all when attacking. But all of it was deflected by Yoken. He mentioned that as he thought he can't win against him yet. He thanked Yoken for his hard work. Oken's breathing became shallow and fast. He praised the young master. In his mind, he can't believe that the weak young master Sion had grown that much. Back to the present time. Oken thought that his hunch was right. The young master could overcome the trial. The hellhound moved quickly. Sion anticipated its attack. It roared loudly as it approached him. Its eyes are focused on Sion. It passed by Sion. Sion understood that with his current strength, fighting a monster is still too much. He knew he had to end the battle as quickly as possible. The hellhound prepared to attack again, but Sion had planned to kill it with his next attack. He assumed a combat stance, and when the hellhound charged at him, he targeted its neck. He leapt high in the air and pierced its skull with his sword. The knights couldn't believe their eyes. The Duke was pleased. Cyan looked at the corpse of the hellhound. It was bleeding severely from its neck. He thought that it was a waste since that much blood could fill a few bottles. But if he did something like that right there, people would think that he's crazy. The Duke clapped as he praised Sion for being impressive. He told Sion, "Then I'll see you at the battlefront." Sion thanked his father. Karam appeared as a small smoke in his shoulder. She fiercely asked him if she looked like a kitchen knife to him. Sion nonchalantly answered, "Of course not. You're a demonic sword. Why would you say that?" Karam replied, "Then use me, damn it." She yelled that she needs blood to gain strength. She looked at the corpse and stuck her tongue out, while begging to be allowed to have one gulp. Sion told her not to worry, and with murderous intent, he told her that soon he will use her to his heart's content. He told her to look forward to it. Karam complained that he should have just woken her up during that time then. After a while, an ogre appeared in the northwest. The Duke commanded them to set up a line of defense and take down the ogre right away. He told everyone to leave no one alive. The knights yelled to start the restraint of salvation. A bright yellow mark in the air illuminated the area. A magic circle formed beneath the ogres, and restraints came out of that circle, immobilizing the ogres. The Duke commanded the knights to attack. They sliced up the ogres in the area. The ogres roared loudly, but the knight bravely did their duty. They easily cut down the ogres. Meanwhile, Cyan was mounted on a horse, watching them, while Emily behind him is scared to death. She cried rivers of tears as she asked the young master why he wanted to come into a place like that. Deep inside, Cyan felt nostalgic. The Duke asked him how it feels to be in the front lines. Cyan admitted that he's a bit nervous. The Duke told him that, as he had observed, he will never know when he will die in a place like that. He advised him not to ever let his guard down. He answered that he will keep that in mind. He knew that in the frontlines, situations like that are a demi a dozen. There are usually 3 to 4 battles a day, and every battle has its own detailed response manual, with the capable knights as core, taking care of all the monsters that try to cross the front lines. At the base camp, he had observed that the 10 that he was assigned to is in the rearmost area, where it's the safest. With the guards in the area being disciplined, he couldn't see a chance to feed Karam. He wondered if he had to wait until dinner time. He noticed Emily trembling under the blanket. She replied, "Didn't the Duke tell us?" She continued, "That we won't know when and where we would die." Cyan asked, "Why won't she pack up and return?" She yelled loudly, "Do you think I can, when you can't even do anything without me?" With a slight hint of annoyance, she told him that with the monsters all over the place, if she ran away, who would take care of him? She instructed him to move, since it's already time to eat. Cyan asked her about the cape that he requested, but Emily just left him in the tent without saying a word. Cyan was holding back his annoyance, but he wondered what would happen if he just chased her away. He couldn't believe that's how she treated her master. Later that night, Cyan lay a doll that looked like him in bed. He covered it in a blanket. It looked like he was sleeping on the bed. He thought that was enough cover. Emily asked him if he plans to exercise even in that place. He answered yes, and asked if he woke her up. Her eyes are still closed as she praised him for being diligent. She added that the Duke would be proud of him if he were to find out. He put on his hood and told her that he will be leaving. He asked her to take care of things as usual. As he was about to leave the tent, he briefed her that he was asleep. Cyan knew that since they are in the front lines, the guard duties are strengthened. He ran as fast as he could. If he didn't take that chance, moving around freely will be difficult. He used his skill, Thick Fog 3 move, Fog's Descent. He's relying on his memory and went to a place with tons of monsters. It was the perfect place to use Karam. Karam got excited over the strong scent of blood. She told his master that she doesn't think he can hold back. She urged him to move quickly so she could cut something down. Several hellhound monsters attacked them. Cyan agreed with her and promised her that they would do as she pleased. Cyan and Karam easily cut down the monsters. They were clearly enjoying this bloodbath. Cyan activated Fog Sword, Rushing Fog Storm, and he cut down several monsters while moving like a tornado. Few moments had passed. He stuck a tube in the monster's corpse. A mug waited at the end of the tube. He drains the blood through this method, and then he drank the fresh blood. He looked like a madman when he uttered, "This is the stuff." Karam was elated too. She commented that it's the first time she felt so refreshed after waking up. Cyan told her that they will keep training like that. She asked him how long he thought it would take for them to get stronger by killing those mutts. Little did they know, several hellhounds gathered behind them. He sensed the monsters. He assured Karam not to worry since the night is young, and there are plenty of monsters. Karam was getting excited. Ogres, hellhounds, giant crocodiles, you name it. That same night, a carriage escorted by several knights is traveling in the mountains. A girl with silver hair is inside the carriage. Someone can be heard saying that the front line is too dangerous. The woman inside the carriage with the girl suggested that they go back. The girl told her not to treat her like a child. She told her that she's the royal princess of the empire. With a hint of annoyance, she asked her how many times must she remind her that she's bound to her duty to assist her father in his tours. She warned her that she will get mad if he mentions it again. The woman replied that she understood, and then she changed the topic with the news saying that the youngest son of the Vert family is on the front lines. She added that he should be around the same age as her. The princess was surprised to hear that Duke Vert brought his youngest son. Her attendant told her that the Duke wasn't really planning to bring the kid, yet the kid volunteered himself. Since they are at the same age, the attendant suggested that the princess and the kid should get along. The princess acted as if this didn't interest her. She ended the conversation by saying that she would go to sleep. The attendant respected her wish. After a few heartbeats, the princess asked for the kid's name. The attendant replied that it's Cyan Vert. She repeated the name and took a mental note of it. The face of the princess was then revealed. Waifu candidate number 1 was found. A monster was sliced to its death. The Duke ordered to check if anyone's been injured. It was reported to the Duke that everyone is okay. The Duke praised them for their hard work and ordered everyone to go back. The Duke looked around. He had observed the one who killed the last flying monster, which is Cyan. The Duke asked Cyan how he was adjusting to the front lines. Cyan respectfully answered that he's learning something new every day. It wasn't what the Duke expected, since he thought Cyan would want to hurry back. He commented that his son has endured for quite some time now, and he told him that he's proud of Cyan. That caught Cyan off guard. Before the Duke leaves, he told Cyan that he had something to talk to him about tomorrow, so he wanted him to come to his tent early in the morning. Cyan was surprised, since he had never seen his father's kindness before. The night came, and it had an eerie atmosphere. A monster with a long body came out from underground. Fortunately, Cyan was quick on his feet, so he escaped it. It was a death worm. It's gigantic, with the end of its body full of sharp teeth. It usually appears deeper into the valley. Karam uttered that her master must be struggling, so she offered to take over instead. But Cyan wasn't foolish, since he's aware of her schemes. Karam denied that it was her intention. She promised to just use it for a bit, then she'll allow him to take over. The deathworm's body had a bit of smoke on the rough surfaces. Karam pointed out that the deathworm immediately regenerates any shallow injuries, so it would be useless to attack it. Cyan knew that she's right, and might have to continue forever at that rate. It had already been a month since Cyan went to the front lines. He had drunk the blood of countless demonic beasts, but he felt that still wasn't enough. The deathworm attacked him, and Cyan thought he had no choice. He decided to play along with whatever Karam is planning for now.